Retirement looks beautiful in theory. No alarm clocks, no deadlines, no office politics, just freedom, peace, and finally having time to enjoy life. But behind that picture-perfect version of retirement, there's a side almost nobody talks about, and it catches people off guard every single year. Because retirement does not just test how much money you saved, it tests how long that money can survive once real life starts hitting from every direction. Medical bills, housing costs, family needs, rising prices, expenses that seem manageable at first, then slowly turn into the reason someone burns through a lifetime of savings far faster than expected. And that's the real danger. Not overspending on luxuries, not living wildly, just underestimating the everyday costs that grow quietly in the background until the damage is already done. In this video, we're breaking down 5 retirement expenses that have the power to wreck even a solid financial plan if you don't see them coming early. More importantly, we're talking about how to avoid them so your retirement stays secure, stable, and actually feels like the freedom you worked for your whole life. Most people spend years planning how money will come into retirement, but far fewer plan for how fast it can go out. And that's where the real trouble starts. Because the biggest retirement threats usually aren't flashy or dramatic. They're the quiet expenses that keep building in the background until they start tearing through savings much faster than expected. These are not small budgeting mistakes. These are the kinds of costs that can slowly and sometimes very quickly turn a comfortable retirement into a financial struggle. In this video, we're breaking down 5 retirement expenses that hit harder than most people expect and do the most damage when they get ignored. These are the costs that quietly eat through savings, create stress, and push a lot of retirees into financial decisions they never planned to make. But this is not just about pointing out the problem. We're also going to look at how to stay ahead of each one so these expenses do not turn into a full-blown crisis later. And this matters because retirement is not a short phase of life. For many people, it lasts 20, 25, even 30 years or more. That means even expenses that seem manageable today can become massive over time. That's where a lot of people get caught off guard. The real danger is not laziness or bad intentions, it's underestimating what retirement actually costs in the real world. So with that in mind, let's get into the 5 expenses that can do the most damage if you're not ready for them. Healthcare is one of the fastest ways retirement savings start disappearing, and a lot of people underestimate it badly. Many assume that once they leave work and move into retirement, healthcare becomes simple. But for a lot of retirees, it becomes one of the biggest ongoing costs in the entire budget. Insurance premiums, out-of-pocket expenses, prescription drugs, dental work, vision care, hearing support, and surprise medical bills all start stacking up fast. And the problem is, these costs do not always arrive in one dramatic moment. They build quietly. A specialist visit here, a new medication there, a procedure you did not plan for, and suddenly the budget starts feeling tight. That's especially dangerous when someone retires thinking their main medical costs are already covered, only to realize later how much still comes out of pocket. The smart move is to prepare early. Understand what your future coverage actually includes, plan for the gaps, build a medical savings cushion, and look at your insurance options before retirement starts, not after the bills begin. Housing is another big one because a lot of people think once the mortgage is gone, the housing problem is solved. It isn't. Even when the house is fully paid off, the bills do not disappear. Repairs still come, maintenance still comes, property taxes still come. Utility costs keep rising, and as the house gets older, the chances of expensive problems only get bigger. Then there's another layer people often ignore, the cost of making a home easier and safer to live in as they age. Small upgrades turn into real money very quickly. This catches retirees off guard because they see the home as an asset, but in day-to-day life, it still demands constant spending. The house is owned, yes, but it still keeps charging you to live in it. That's why it helps to look at housing honestly before retirement begins. Figure out what repairs are coming, decide whether the home still makes sense long-term, and budget early for maintenance, upgrades, or even downsizing if that gives you more breathing room. Then there's lifestyle inflation in retirement. And this one surprises a lot of people because it comes from something positive: freedom. When retirement begins, people finally have time. Time to travel, eat out more, pick up hobbies, meet friends, enjoy weekends that now last all week, and spend money on things they put off for years. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's one of the rewards of retirement. But the cost adds up fast when spending becomes a habit instead of a plan. A lot of retirees do not go off track because of reckless decisions. They go off track because the good life starts costing more than they expected. More lunches out, more trips, more entertainment, more hobbies, more little treats that feel harmless on their own but become a major expense together. That's why this part needs structure. Build a lifestyle budget that gives you room to enjoy retirement without turning every month into a spending free-for-all. Retirement is better when fun is planned, not when it quietly takes over the budget. Long-term care is one of the most serious and most ignored expenses of all. This is the one people avoid thinking about because it feels uncomfortable, distant, and easy to push aside. But if it becomes necessary, it can drain savings faster than almost anything else in retirement. Whether it's help at home, assisted living, or full-time nursing support, the cost can become overwhelming very quickly. And the hardest part is that many people assume some outside system will take care of it, only to find out too late that the financial burden lands heavily on them and their family. That's what makes this expense so dangerous. It stays out of sight for years, then arrives with a price tag big enough to change everything. This is why early planning matters so much. Talk about it before it becomes urgent. Look into care options, review insurance possibilities, discuss expectations with family, and consider setting aside money specifically for this risk. Avoiding the conversation does not reduce the cost. It only delays the reality. And finally, there's the silent double hit of taxes and inflation. A lot of retirees focus on how much they have saved, but not enough attention goes to how much of that money they actually get to keep and what that money will be worth later. Taxes take a bigger bite than many people expect. Retirement withdrawals, certain income sources, and other distributions can create a tax burden that catches people off guard. Money that looks solid on paper starts shrinking once taxes enter the picture. Then inflation makes things even tougher, because even if your spending habits stay the same, the cost of living does not. Year after year, everyday life gets more expensive. Groceries, utilities, healthcare, travel, repairs, all of it rises. So the same amount of money buys less and less over time. That is what makes this final category so dangerous. One side pulls money out directly, the other quietly weakens the value of what remains. The best defense is planning with both in mind. Think carefully about where retirement income comes from, how withdrawals are managed, and how to keep part of your money positioned for long-term growth so inflation does not slowly eat away at your future. And this is the part that matters most. Retirement itself is not the danger. The real danger is walking into it with the wrong assumptions and no clear plan for the costs that come with it. These expenses feel overwhelming when they show up unexpectedly, but they become far more manageable when you see them early and prepare for them with honesty. That is what separates a stressful retirement from a stable one. When you step back and look at the full picture, the biggest pressure points are clear. Healthcare can quietly drain savings. Housing keeps costing money even after the mortgage is gone. Lifestyle spending rises fast once free time turns into more travel, more dining out, and more hobbies. Long-term care has the power to wipe out years of savings if nobody plans for it. And taxes and inflation keep chipping away at money from two different directions at the same time. So the goal is not to predict every single expense perfectly. The goal is to plan early, stay realistic, and build a retirement strategy around what life actually costs, instead of what you hope it will cost. Retirement security comes from facing the numbers honestly before they start controlling your choices later. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these expenses surprised you the most? Which one are you already thinking about the most right now? And if you want, tell me whether you'd like a follow-up video on how to build a realistic retirement budget from the ground up.